All right, we're going to go on a little journey today, one that spans from the absolutely microscopic all the way out to the cosmic. We'll check out a new kind of superglue inspired by nature, see how our brains are literally changing in the age of smartphones, and then we'll travel millions of light years away to watch how stars are born. Let's dive in.
So here are the 5 stops on our trip. We're going to start with a really powerful new bioglue. Then we'll turn inward and look at our own brains. After that, we zoom way out to a global health threat, take a deep dive to find a mysterious new creature, and we'll end our journey by seeing entire galaxies in a completely new light.
First up, we are jumping into the world of bioengineering. This is where scientists are looking at some of the stickiest things in nature to try and solve a massive medical challenge.
You know, trying to make a glue that works on wet surfaces is, well, it's hard enough on its own. But what if that same glue also had to be able to fight off infections? That's the exact problem a team at MIT decided to tackle, and they looked to nature for the solution. And the answer came from 2 pretty unlikely sources. First, you've got mussels. You know, the way they secrete these proteins that let them just cling to rocks with incredible force, even with waves crashing over them. And second, our own mucus, which, yeah, it's kind of gross, but it creates this amazing slimy barrier against bacteria. So the big idea from the engineers was, what if we could combine that incredible stickiness with that protective shield?
So the process they came up with works a lot like a 2-part epoxy you might find at the hardware store. They start with these sticky polymers that are inspired by the mussels. Then they mix them with something called mucins. Those are the key proteins for mucus. And the second they combine, this chemical reaction called cross-linking kicks in, and the molecules literally lock together, turning this liquid into a super strong, waterproof, and germ-blocking gel.
So why is this such a big deal? Well, think about medical implants, things like catheters, pacemakers, or artificial joints. A coating of this bioglue could create a perfect germ-proof seal right inside the human body, and that could be an absolute game changer for preventing really dangerous infections.
Okay, so from engineering our biology, let's turn the lens inward and explore how our technology might actually be re-engineering us. Let's take a look at what the science has to say about our relationship with our smartphones.
And we're not just talking about 1 or 2 studies here. A massive scientific review compiled data from 84 different studies to really get a handle on the effects of excessive smartphone use. That is a huge body of evidence.
And what they found is really widespread, touching on 3 major areas. In mental health, they found clear links to things like depression and anxiety. Physically, it was tied to problems like poor sleep and reduced fitness. And, maybe the most concerning part, it was affecting our cognitive function, messing with our attention spans and what's called inhibitory control, which is basically your brain's ability to hit the brakes and not act on every impulse.
But this goes so much deeper than just bad habits or feeling down. The review found studies that documented physical changes inside the brain itself. We are talking about reduced gray matter volume, altered activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is our brain's CEO, our decision-making hub, and even changes to the white matter, which is like all the brain's internal wiring.
All right, let's zoom out now from the individual brain to a health threat that's tracked on a global scale, the H5N1 virus, which most of us know as bird flu. So avian influenza, or H5N1, is a flu virus that, just like the name says, mostly circulates among birds. The thing is, sometimes it can jump to other animals, and in very rare cases, it can infect humans, which is exactly why organizations like the CDC keep such a close eye on it.
So to put this all in perspective, let's just look at the data. There was a recent case in a child in California who was recovered, and that brought the total number of human cases in the entire US for the year to 55. Now, while these numbers are obviously very low, the really crucial finding from the CDC is that there is still no evidence that the virus is spreading easily from person to person. So what's the bottom line here? Well, the CDC's official assessment is pretty clear. While it is always a good idea to avoid contact with sick animals, the overall risk to the general public is considered low.
Okay, let's shift gears completely now. We're going from tracking threats we know about to discovering the completely unknown. And for this, we are diving miles below the ocean surface into the midnight zone, where researchers have just described a totally remarkable new creature.
Everybody, meet Bathydivivis cactus. This is the first sea slug ever found living and swimming around in the deep, open ocean, and it is just wonderfully strange. It's got a transparent body, a giant hood that it uses to trap prey, kind of like a Venus flytrap, and this tail that fans out into these bizarre finger-like bits. It's so unique that scientists originally just called it the mystery mollusk.
Life in the deep sea, it requires some seriously creative solutions just to survive.
And this slug's defense mechanism is absolutely incredible. When it's threatened, it just attaches one of those finger-like projections. But here's the wild part. That detached finger glows. It creates this bioluminescent decoy that distracts whatever is trying to eat it while the slug just vanishes into the darkness. It's like a living, glowing escape pod.
For our final stop, we are making the biggest leap in scale that is humanly possible, from the depths of our own oceans to the absolute vastness of interstellar space. We're going to look at how the James Webb Space Telescope is giving us a brand new way of seeing the universe.
Okay, so this is the Spiral Galaxy NGC 2090. Over on the left, that's what it looks like through the Hubble telescope. See how it looks kind of patchy, all obscured by dust? But now, look to the right. That is the view from the James Webb Space Telescope. Because Webb sees an infrared light, it can peer straight through all of that cosmic dust and reveal the galaxy's true structure in just breathtaking detail.
So what is all that glowing red stuff we're seeing? Well, Webb is actually detecting the heat from compounds called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs for short. The easiest way to think of them is as the raw cosmic materials. They're the key ingredients in these giant clouds of gas and dust that eventually collapse to form brand new stars.
And that's really why this is so important. What we're looking at isn't just a more detailed image. Webb is basically giving astronomers a map that shows exactly where the raw materials for star birth are located inside a galaxy. It's a direct look at that galaxy's star-forming potential, and it's helping us understand how galaxies grow and evolve over cosmic time.
So, from a glue inspired by mucus to the physical wiring of our own brains, a glowing deep-sea slug, and the birth of distant stars, our journey today really shows that discovery is happening everywhere, at every single scale. It reminds us that there are entire universes of knowledge hidden in a drop of goo, and entire galaxies just waiting to be seen in a new light. So you have to wonder, what fundamental truth about our world, or even ourselves, is waiting just around the corner?